Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, my DevNation friends. It's again a new DevNation show. And again, we will have a great time all together. Again, I will have a great guest. And today I have also another host with me. It's Anna. Anna, are you ready to come on stage? Okay, there we
Yes.
go. Hey,
Hello,
Anna.
hello.
Hey,
Hi.
nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yours is centered. Your mine is shift left, right? I
Ah.
don't know. Yeah. It's another edition. Yeah. So how are you, Anna?
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh,
I just come from biking.
oh,
Yeah, it's very nice outside here in the Netherlands, and I just wanted to have some great time, and I went biking. It's a lovely weather to bike by the canals, so totally
yeah.
recommend it.
I guess. And you know why it's great weather at your place because it's raining here right now.
uh,
But I'm really happy it's raining because it was so dry, and we really need that rain. So anyway, everyone, say hello on the chat, please. As always, say where you come from. We want this to be interactive as much as possible. Ask your questions, write your comments, and without waiting anymore, let me bring our guest on stage. So there we go. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. I'm
hi.
fine. I'm fine. So awesome to have you. Well, we know each other, but maybe you don't know Anna. So I don't know if you ever met before. I don't think so. Maybe
I
not.
don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
We've met through email.
through email.
Yeah, there you go.
Through email.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Uh, and different conference CFPs, emails.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah, definitely there. Definitely virtually. That's much easier to catch contact than in person,
Yeah.
especially right now. So
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Hey, Jennifer, I always ask the same question to all my guests. Uh, Jennifer, who are you? Take the time you want. The stage is yours.
sure. My name is Jennifer Reif. I'm a developer advocate at Neo4j and have been for the last, I guess, just over 4 years now. It was kind of crazy. The 4 year marker passed a couple weeks ago, and it was like, oh, it doesn't feel like it's been 4 years, and yet it feels like it's been much longer than that. So, um, but I work on Neo4j is a graph database company, and so I work on just helping developers use the technology or work with the systems they're already working with, and help them understand graphs or integrate graphs into that. So I end up writing a lot of content, a lot of kind of code examples. I publish a lot to GitHub. And so just kind of showing developers how to work with tools and technology. I do a lot of conferences as well. I traveled quite a bit prior to pandemic. And then since then, I've just been doing a lot of virtual or videos or blog posts or kind of any other avenue I can to share my experiences and what I've learned. I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, this is great. It's great. It's a great intro. Yeah. I was also asking always when I receive dev advocates, I ask them, how did you pass through the whole pandemic situation? Uh, you more or less said that you blogged a lot. You did a lot of videos, and but yeah, looks like things are brightening up. Maybe we might be able to travel again. At least
Hopefully.
with Anna, we plan to travel starting in April. Yeah. We should come over to the States to DevNexus. That's the plan. If everything
Yes. Yeah,
goes as
that's
planned.
my plan as well.
Oh, that's your plan as well. Awesome. That is
Yes.
awesome. That is awesome. So we will meet at a conference, and it's funny because the first time I met you, it was also at a conference. It was at
Yes.
Java One,
I believe
2000,
so. Yeah, that's been a while.
2016, something like that, or
That sounds
yeah.
about right. Yeah.
And I think you even came to my session. No, or something like that. Yeah, that was awesome. In the time I was still in the mobile team. I was doing mobile presentation, I think. Yeah. And no, I was, and you were also a presenter. And I remember I was really impressed because you were pretty young back in 2016, and it reminded, and
Yeah,
it reminded
that was
me,
my first year presenting. And anything near that big. Like I'd done, small internal groups for my existing company, but I'd never done a conference. And so that was my first kind of intro to the big world, I guess, if you want to put it like that. But
and that was awesome because it resonates a lot with me, because it was also the first year that I brought my daughter on stage, and that I did a conference with my daughter. And so, it was
so
awesome.
cool.
Also, we have some comments here. So Tony's always there. We have Palaf from India, Idver from the Netherlands. Anthony's putting some comments. Okay, keep it coming. The comments, we love to hear that. So Anna, is there anything you want to add to this intro stuff?
Well, I think that we're pretty familiar to the folks on the show. Since you and I have been hosting this, like last year, we've been changing some roles, and would like to give the stage to Jennifer. But I think it's great to point out that, well, March is kind of celebrating the ladies, so it's a great thing to, and I'm honored to be here today with Jennifer at the show, and to remind a little bit about the beauty of this month as well. So yeah, it's great initiative. And actually, I was going to say to you, but I don't want to show off too much. I'm wearing the T-shirt from the women. Red Hat Women Leadership, the one that I received for a while, and it's really cool. I hope that I can show it to a conference, because it's really, really nice, and it's about being together. I think it's very important nowadays to be together, regardless of gender or nationality, and contribute to a better world. So I hope that spring is going to be better and bring great news to all of us. Speaking of DevNexus, right? I mean, it's going to be a huge reunion, I would say.
Oh yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I will see. So I don't know who is attending. I have to see the speaker list, but I hope that all the we speak about the usual suspects. So I mean the whole Tommy Tribe band. I don't know if they will be there, but I always imagine if Amelia is there, I will notice it within the second, because I will hear her screaming, "Sammy!" And it will be crazy. Anyway, Jennifer, let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
How did you start it with IT?
That is an excellent question.
Yeah. Maybe it started when you were really young, or really the whole story.
Sure. Yeah.
Great to hear.
So both my parents majored in computer science or the time management information systems, and so they both were doing programming. And so I kind of grew up in a very technical household. Most of kind of my generation, there were many who didn't have computers, and there were some who did. We were the ones who did, because we were just that kind of a geeky family. But I remember playing like a lot of, early computer games, and we had like a typing game that taught us how to properly type on the keyboard from a very, very young age. And so I kind of just always grew up around it, and we always kind of knew that, hey, technology is the future. Everything, no matter what you end up doing in a career or for your life or for enjoyment, technology is probably going to be a part of that somehow, because it just will permeate everything. And it has. But when I got to, I really liked music as a kid. So I played violin. And through high school, I really enjoyed it. I really focused in on it. That was kind of the thing out of kind of all the activities you can do as a kid. Through school age, sports and music and theater and, math and science clubs and things like that. Music was just kind of my thing, and my sisters as well. And so we all kind of grew up with that. It was a very musical household. My parents both had some musical knowledge, a little bit of background there. And so we just all really enjoyed that together. And so I went into college thinking this is what I want to do. And so I majored in music, but took business classes on the side, knowing that even if I major in music, business and computers and technology needs to be a vital part of that. And I took a couple of classes at the community college and some classes at the university for the business minor, and really just kind of caught a hold of programming and really enjoyed programming. And of course, seeing kind of the parallels that you wouldn't think maybe that there are parallels between music and computer science, but there are actually quite a few. And so just kind of seeing the two and seeing the vast amount of possibilities and the amount of things that you can do in computer science, that you can also bring music alongside that. And maybe there's not so many opportunities on the flip side to kind of bring computer programming into the music world. I mean, it's possible, but I think there are so many more opportunities vice versa, that I really felt like I think I'm being drawn slightly off, to a different course into computer programming. So I ended up finishing my bachelor's degree, got the business minor, and then ended up going for a master's in computer management and information systems. So completely switched degrees. I was super thankful that my university accepted me, and I got into the master's program straight off the bat. And so I started taking classes there, and I got into contact with a couple of students there, and ended up with a job offer really quickly at a local financial firm. They're actually a North America wide firm, but their headquarters is in St. Louis, Missouri area, so central US. And so I got a job offer there and started working. Kind of more traditional financial firm, but really excellent people there, and really helped train me quite a bit into what I wanted to do. And then I went from there. I spent, I think, 4-ish years there. And I started kind of enjoying the speaking game. My dad was kind of doing that as well. He's in tech, worked, had just not too far, but before that had started working at Pivotal, now VMware. And so he kind of was like, hey, you should come along to Java 1. There's some really cool people. There's some really great technical content. You should just tag along. And so in 2015, I did. I just tagged along as a student because I was still going to school and working at the time. And so I just tagged along. I thought, this is really cool. I enjoy this. I ended up with a couple other speaking opportunities through academic conferences via my school. And so then at the next Java 1, I came back and presented for the first time there. Which was really cool. And I kind of I caught the bug where I really liked advocacy. I really liked the content and just kind of the sharing of learning experiences and technologies, and working with the new and the old and combining them all. And so someone reached out to me on my kind of new Twitter presence, I guess, and was like, hey, we're looking at hiring a new advocate for Neo4j. Would you be interested in submitting your application? I was like, yes. So I ended up, it was actually a reasonably short process. They were relatively small then. Neo4j has grown quite a bit in the last 4 years. They're relatively small, so the process was pretty quick, and I ended up hired on within a matter of a couple months and started working there back in 2018. And so did a lot of travel. So it's just kind of one of those things I didn't expect to end up where I am, or to expect the timeline to work out like it did. But it's just kind of funny. Some of this stuff has just kind of popped up out of nowhere, or my path has kind of taken me elsewhere than I'd originally planned. But it's been a lot of fun. I can't complain.
Okay, awesome. I will let maybe Anna want to add something. But one question: do you still play the violin?
I do, yeah. Not very much. I have a toddler at home, and so that between work and that keeps me totally busy. But any spare sliver of moments I get, I like to pick it back up and play.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah. And as you said, I think I did it in a talk. The parallel between coding and music. It's really close, and also the practicing like kata codas. It's like training your, how do you call that in English, your skills with a music instrument and gum. I don't know if it's
Yep.
called skill. Yeah, the parallel with katakodas, yeah, you can more or less relate with that. So
Yep.
yeah.
The practicing before performing, the discipline, and the kind of mental rigor it takes to approach coding is definitely, I mean, all of that stuff was trained, from early on for me. So even though I didn't have maybe the syntax skills or the technical skills, I had all of the foundations and the kind of mental skills I needed to apply it to a new area.
Yeah. And it's funny, for my daughter, it's the opposite. She started with coding when she was 8 because she loved it, and later on she started playing music instruments, and now she's unstoppable. She do piano, guitar, and she told me the same. She said, "Oh, it's like I like it, it's like coding," and but it's funny because it started the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anna,
So-
anything you want to add to this great story?
Well, I want to ask you. So, when you were starting with programming, is there anything from the languages that draw you more, like the language that you particularly liked more? I mean, for me, I know that in the beginning was not Java because I learned others before Java. But yeah, how was your experience?
So yeah, I ended up in Java, and that's kind of where I've stayed for the most part. I mean, I kind of dabble. I've tried a little bit of Python. I've tried a little bit of JavaScript. But I mean, Java is kind of my home base, and I kind of like it that way. But actually, early on, I did a little bit I had some classes with Alice, and then I did a little bit in Visual Basic, and then took some Java. I don't think, well, I had one SQL course, I guess. But outside of that, I really didn't have much else in college. It was then when I entered the workforce that I started doing some more kind of branching out, I guess. But most of their stuff, kind of the traditional financial firm. So they dealt with a lot of maybe older systems or kind of maybe not new flashy technologies. But I did actually really like writing Linux scripts, believe it or not. I like working with data, and I enjoyed that. And they did actually quite a bit with Linux scripting. And I wrote SQL, quite a bit of SQL there, and some, I guess it was PL SQL, and they did SQR, which was basically SQL reporting, kind of. And so I did some of that a little bit, but it was more kind of a blend between a query language and then the logic of a programming language. And that was all fine. I never minded any of that, but I really did enjoy Java and liked when we started kind of, they started branching into Java aspects and things like that. And I kind of enjoyed that a lot.
Thank you. It was really interesting to know, and it's always good to know how people have started or like ended up like preferring more a specific language, or they like more a specific language, even though that as engineers we're kind of like branched into different directions and we're adapting from one language to another. We kind of have one of our favorites because of some features, some comfort that is coming on our way. I mean, I remember that back in the day, when I started with PHP, even if it was object-oriented PHP, I was still missing what I knew about Java. And I was thinking, like, I would have done this with Java differently. And it was comparing some of the stuff and, like, thinking, why?
Yep.
Yeah, and also, like, I can advise our audience, like, try multiple languages before you decide one that you would like to continue and enhance even more. It's always good to like have opportunity to learn more and to expand to more languages than just know only one and stick only with one. Like, try more and then decide.
And it's kind of a fine line, because I feel like you end up, if you just stick to your own little bubble, you never see kind of the different approaches, or really, like, you have a lot of integration projects or libraries or extensions to things that were built from another language perspective, even if they might work in your language. So understanding other languages and how they function and how they were structured or architected is never a bad thing. But you also don't want to be kind of jack of all trades, master of none, where it's like, oh yeah, I've dabbled in these 16 languages, but I'm not very good at any of them. So I think coming back to a home base because you're more comfortable with X language is totally fine. Or picking 1 or 2 languages and saying, I'm really going to excel in these. That's totally fine too. But exploring those other languages and understanding why they were built or kind of their foundations for other things, I think is super important.
Definitely. We need to be respectful to the choices that as humanity have made throughout time when inventing different languages. I mean, if you're looking to the history of the languages, each of them was invented because us, the humans, were bothered by things that were existing in the previous ones.
Right.
It's always like that. And even on the JVM languages that are nowadays, they actually ignited as a way to, give the opportunity to try different things that were available initially with Java, like, hey, maybe this one, it will work. And it's nice to combine them, as you said, and to have a holistic view on how to combine them, because as an engineer, in the end, it's good to know what to choose at a certain point in time, like what would be a better fit for a certain project, then instead of like going with only the one that you know best, and is, yes, as you said, you're in that bubble and you know only about it. So yeah, and of course knowing more can also like give you some more ideas to innovate and maybe create your own language or your own framework at some point.
Absolutely.
Okay. Maybe since we are talking about languages, programming languages, we can focus on Java a bit.
Sure.
Okay.
So, first thing, do we? I guess so, but because we are advocates, and often I hear, "Oh, you're a dev advocate, so you don't code anymore." That's something that you hear a lot, and I say, "No, I code my demos." So the first thing, but I guess you are still coding. And are you keeping up the whole Java release train? Are you using the latest versions of Java? Are you trying to keep it up?
I kind of go back and forth. So I've got I kind of flip between 11 and 17. I feel like for a lot of developers, especially those working in businesses or in large corporations, they're probably not going to be the absolute bleeding edge. And that's perfectly fine. So I tend to just kind of naturally gravitate toward 11 for now, just because I feel like there's a wide swath of developers who already understand 11 or already are working with it or know how it functions and are used to the syntax there. And then 17, I'll occasionally, drop into 17 for something, or just to kind of do something fun, or, hey, I want to use the latest, greatest stuff. And that's totally fine too. But I feel like just because I want to, when I'm creating a demo, I have a specific thing that I'm trying to help other people understand. And I don't really want to mess with trying to teach them the latest things in Java while I'm trying to help them learn how to use X, so too many variables, I think, just makes it more confusing. But by all means, use 17 if that's where you are, and that's great. And I'll get there. But I feel like just for relatability purposes, I kind of gravitate towards 11 still for right now.
I feel you. I'm still migrating some of my Java 8 oldies. And it's fun. It's quite fun because I'm like jumping from like 8 to 11 and then to 17. Something like this is the migration path. Once reaching 11 it's easier to grade to 17.
Yeah. And I kind of, because I did a whole lot of traveling and a whole lot of, I guess, in-depth Neo4j stuff, I'd kind of gotten away from like core Java things because I was focusing so hard on learning the ins and outs of Neo4j and Cypher and, Neo4j systems and products that I didn't really focus hard on Java as a language. And so coming back to it probably last year, last year-ish, maybe 2020 as well. And kind of diving into, it's like, oh, I got to learn a bunch of these features that I knew they were there, but I haven't really used them. And so, getting really comfortable with lambdas even, and of all things, and just some of the features that are available now in 11 and 17, I think is a slower track, but I'm enjoying really kind of getting back into the language.
Yeah. I'm also struggling with the lambdas and about 17. Is there is there one feature that one of the great new features that have been added? Is there one feature that you really like I don't know, records or sealed classes, or is there one specific thing that you say, wow, that I was really waiting for that, now it is there? And
I really do want to play with records a little bit more, because I feel like in demo apps that's going to be huge, especially when you're kind of building live demo apps in conference situations. I feel like it's going to shortcut a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of demos with those already in there, and it's like, oh, that looks so much shorter, so much cleaner, really easy and nice to use. But I haven't actually sat down and said, I am going to learn how to use this feature yet. So hopefully I'll have, a nice little, break of time that I can really sit down and learn that. But I think that's going to be really nice for just kind of creating these quick off the fly demo applications that are less verbose, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess for Neo4j, it makes sense where you retrieve data and you want to put that in a record, and that will make your demos even nicer.
Yep. Yeah, a lot more focusing on the data and less on, the mapping portion of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's your favorite feature, Anna? You do a lot of stuff with 17, so.
Yeah, I'm a lot with experimenting with 17, and as Jennifer, nowadays when I'm building something from scratch, I'm balancing between 11 and 17, depending on what I want to show again. But I would say again records, but I also like sealed classes for the elegance that they allow with inheritance and everything. I really think that they are a great helper in terms of working with inheritance and hierarchy of classes, and establishing which class is allowed to inherit, where to stop with inheritance. Because something that I remember from the early times I was a developer, and I was hearing the seniors talking about, was people used to inherit a lot. And there were some, if you're working in enterprise applications like that for products, you end up with a very large code base of things that are inherited. And when you're changing something, you're like, oh, what's the impact here? So I remember that back in the day that everybody was saying there should be something done about this. And I think that sealed classes are a very elegant way in how to do a proper inheritance mapping nowadays. And yes, I think there were actually more things to come. I really like the switch part. The switch that is becoming much more elegant nowadays, and there are way more options on dealing with it. I know that probably in the demos that we do, we don't have the complexity of, some of the applications that we see that probably some of our audience is doing. But from the other experience I have, I remember some switches that were difficult to take, and I think that nowadays would look way more beautiful. I think that Java, with everything that's improving, is becoming even more beautiful and more elegant in writing code, and more easy to read. I think that's the goal in the end, to be easier to read.
Yeah. And you have a comment there, just put it there, because I was asking the attendees, which version are you using? And pepperoni pizza says, I'm using
No.
but I think I'm using only Java 8 features. Honestly, I think sometimes I'm still in the mindset of Java 8, 11. I even if I'm using Java 17, I don't think about using the latest features yet. I think this will come slowly, and I think it's not easy to we have been stuck in Java 8 for a quite long time, and so yeah. It's totally fine.
And I think it's easy too to go into your project and say, okay, update version, run everything, make sure it, executes, test your project. Okay, it's running, just leave it.
Exactly.
And so you don't really think to sit down and actually upgrade features, say, oh, I'm going to use this piece of code versus this and rewrite pieces of it. You're like, okay, does it build? Okay, we're good.
Well, I think that also when migrating to a new JDK, I think that compatibility is the first thing that people are looking into, and next, it kind of takes some time when going into the newer version, because if the project was written with a prior version, you're kind of trying to maintain the same style as a developer if you're working on a large project. So if you're coming like, okay, so far we've been using something different from records, let's just say, I don't know, we were using Lombok and some other stuff, and then now we're going with records and we're coding with this, or with inheritance, we used to do it like this, and now we're going with sealed classes, unsealed permits and all these things. Then it will become a little weirder to some extent into that. However, you have to start somewhere. So it's also depending on how you want to advance. But yeah, as you said, Jennifer, the first thing you change the JDK. It works with 17. Great.
Right.
I'll come back to the other stuff later. Yeah, and then it's really hard to section out that time to devote to actually learn those new things. So
yeah, I think that one thing that probably people realized when migrating stuff was the things that were deprecated with the Java versions, and that's where the impact and you realize you can improve is coming on too. So sometimes when I'm like seeing that I was using something that nowadays deprecated or is not there anymore, and I have to replace it with something else, I'm like more stimulated to replace and do some new code since I'm already, putting something else in that area.
Yeah, I mean, even Neo4j fights, some of that too. I feel like every tech vendor is going to fight some of that. Anytime you deprecate something, you're going to have users that they end up with a ton of work, and it's just trying to make that work as painless and kind of step by step as possible. Okay, this version we're going to deprecate this little thing. Okay, this version we've got these other two little small things. Okay, this version it's going to be this, and not say, okay, we're going to deprecate these 10 things. Good luck, but kind of making that kind of easier on the developer, but slowly introducing those things where then you get better, cleaner over time.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe I take this opportunity. You say if you deprecate 10 stuff, then it will be chaos. And I read, if I go on your website, on your bio, you mentioned that you like to organize chaos. I really like that because I feel I'm always in chaos. Well, you can see it here in my room, but I try to organize it. But can you tell us more about that thing? What is organizing chaos?
Sure. So, well, my previous company, actually, their slogan was making sense of investments. And then my Neo4j is making sense of data, of connected data. And so it kind of very similar, but it's so I'm kind of I tend to be a very organized person. Maybe not organized in some aspects and more organized in others. I mean, everybody has kind of their own things, but I try to be very analytical about work tasks. I try to be very analytical about kind of project steps. And I don't know, I guess my mind kind of thinks like a programmer, okay, we're going to step and do this. Okay, what does this actually mean? Let's really analyze, is it going to end up doing, C when we expect it to do X, or, something like that. And so I think I try really hard to minimize kind of surprises, or I like, I guess, and this is part of my music background too. I was never I grew up as a classical musician and not as a jazz musician.
Oh, yeah.
And so the idea of a classical musician is very structured, very play the notes that are on the page, nothing less, nothing more. And then you kind of expand, but you expand within what's on the page. And jazz is not like that at all. Jazz is very free form. It's whatever you're feeling at the time. You can mix notes, you can change things around. and that's the beauty of jazz. But I think my brain works very much in the classical realm, and I'm used to that realm, and I'm comfortable in that realm. So I tend to like to rehearse before I give a conference presentation, rehearse quite a bit. Or I tend to, try to document steps, for demos. I try to document things that I've done, or this is how I went about this. And it makes it easier the next time around because all that stuff is already there. I know how this worked last time. I have everything there. So the idea of organizing chaos or organizing things basically just means trying to avoid surprises or things that completely catch you flat-footed. So you can only plan so much, right? Things are just going to happen. You can't avoid everything. But trying to kind of understand what the data looks like and how to handle it and the best way to approach something so that you don't end up with wildly different results is really kind of where my heart is, I guess.
I'm with you, and I love again the analogy classical music and jazz, and so when the demo gods are playing with you during your live demos, are you, because you like it goes as planned? How do you...
So I've gotten better at that over time. I don't think I was very adaptable is the way you would read it early on. But again, as a classical musician, you're as a musician, period, you're going to get used to some of that. I remember before performances, my teacher would tell me, go play in a room where, you have a kid screaming, or go play, in a really busy area where you've got lots of noises all over the place. And the idea is you hone in and you focus on the music and what you're doing, and you ignore everything else. No matter what happens, if somebody walks out the door, while you're on stage, or if somebody falls, and hurts themselves, you're completely in your bubble. Nothing bothers you. And so I think I kind of go back to that, I guess. So when I'm dealing on stage, you have to kind of pivot and adapt as you go. But on the other hand, I do try to plan for mistakes, or what do I do if this happens, or what do I do if that happens while I'm on stage. So I usually have a backup, where if the slides crash or whatever, I can pull them up elsewhere, or I've got other things I can talk about, or I can maybe expand my demo instead, or, vice versa. Okay, hey, the cloud database isn't running. I've got a Docker container I can run locally, or I don't have internet. Do I have an offline version? And so again, you can't plan for everything, but I usually try to have a little bit of a safety net somewhere. And then if something happens, I've got, hey, I can go straight to plan B, no problem. We've got this. And so you still come out, the attendees still come out with something on the other side of that. So I think it's a balance between being flexible and adapting to things that just crop up and saying, well, I tried, I tried to do the best I could. But on the other hand, having a couple of backups, where you can rely on those if something does break in your plan A.
Okay.
That's a very, very good approach It's not always that the demo guys are with us, or it can happen that we're too brave during a demo, and we just decide in that moment that we want to try on that path that we are not actually planning, but in the heat of the moment, when you want to show more things, more cool stuff, you can go on a different direction. But that's very good advice. And I think that with experience, probably you've learned how to juggle with these moments, and how to balance with these moments when something is not going on as expected. And again, the experience of an engineer is helping you, because it's like the real life. When something is not working with some code, you go and try another version, or another option, or you recode it. Yep. With the difference that on stage, you have only several minutes to do it.
Right. Worst comes to worst, you say, here's my repository. I promise you it works. Go check it out and pull it down.
Or you can say, it worked for me before.
Yeah. That's the thing that we say the most. I promise it worked before, just before.
Yeah.
And it's true most of the time. And then right after your talk, you check, you say why it didn't work, and most of the time you say that you you discover that you did a stupid mistake. Oh, I forgot this line, or oh,
Yep.
and you say, oh
Why
no,
didn't
I
I
want
see
to.
that missing semicolon?
Exactly. Oh, I want to go back in time now. And but
Yeah.
but we have to embrace it. Because otherwise you completely freeze. And I like also your advice, like playing music in crowded places. We should do the same with live coding. Bring our laptop in a crowded mall, or I don't know, and train to live code in the middle of people.
I was going to say that nowadays crowded areas are becoming a thing again, but in the past years, it was difficult to find a crowded area.
So we do it a bit when we travel in the airport, because most of the time we do a conference-driven development, and we are coding our demos in the airport. I'm sure you all did it.
Not recognizing a thing.
Cool. Super cool. Let me say nothing in the chat. Chat is pretty quiet today, so don't be shy in the chat. Please bring your question. There are quite a lot of people there, so it's a moment now. Anna, is there anything else? Well, I have some questions left, but is there anything you want to bring up?
Well, I'll let you ask the usual questions of the show, since you're the main host.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the usual. Well, usually it depends on my guest, if he's more a Java developer or more someone from the cloud. But we also always talk a bit about the cloud. So, do you embrace all those cloud technologies? And when I say that, it's mainly Kubernetes. Are you a Kubernetes user, fan? Do you like it, or never use it?
I haven't done a whole lot with it. I'm actually currently working on a microservices project that I'm hoping I can kind of dabble a little bit in Kubernetes. I've heard kind of the gamut of Kubernetes, the good and the dreadful, so it's one of those things that I want to learn it, because I feel like it's very widespread and common. But on the other hand, I'm a bit apprehensive, going, do I really know what I'm getting in for? I don't know. But I haven't done a ton with it. I've done small little things, but that's been a while ago, so I'm sure it's much different now. But I do like cloud. I'm kind of getting more comfortable with it as we go along. I used to run things, most of my demos and things on either local instances or Docker containers, again, local. But somehow, creating my own thing, because that way, if internet goes down, you have different ways to access cloud resources. But on the other hand, I feel like most of the time things are pretty good, assuming, of course, you don't have really bad internet somewhere. But again, that continues to get better and better, I think. And I find myself kind of being drawn to the cloud because there's not a whole lot of maintenance stuff you have to do, or spin up and spin down and stuff like that. It's really just all handled for you behind a screen, if you will, which has its positives and negatives, of course. But it's just, I think it's kind of part of the ubiquity of cloud and cloud technologies, and letting somebody else kind of do the infrastructure or the behind the scenes work, and you're able to focus on data or your applications or whatever you want to focus on at that point.
Yeah, makes sense. And going back to applications and programming, we mentioned Java, and I guess you also have a preferred framework to build your apps. I know your father was working for Pivotal, so I guess you started with Spring Boot, and it's probably maybe still Spring Boot, but it was just my question. Have you tried Quarkus? Because
I don't think I've built a demo in Quarkus. I've looked at several, I've read through some of the guides and stuff. I have every intention, it's sitting on my list, write a Quarkus, demo application or something like that. Along with several others. There's several other frameworks out there too that that I really just haven't explored a whole lot. But I find myself, every time I'm under a crunch, or hey, I have these 5 pieces of content or these 5 projects I got to get out there, and it's like just whip up a Spring Boot. It's faster. So I know how to do it. I'm very comfortable there, and so that's kind of what I just end up doing. But again, it's one thing that I really need to block out some time and sit down and actually work with it. I've sat in on several colleagues' presentations on Quarkus. Some of my colleagues at Neo4j have written, some demos and content blog posts and things working with Neo4j and Quarkus. So it's not that there's lack of content. It's just I need to block my time for it.
Are you referring to Michael Simons?
Yes.
Siemens?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was on the show last year, something like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And he's a huge Spring Boot fan. He wrote 1 or 2 Spring Boot books. Oh, that's hard to say. Spring Boot books in German. And then he discovered Quarkus, and now he written the extension for Neo4j for Quarkus. So he's a big fan now, and he still uses Spring Boot. He uses both. So
yeah. Again, there's nothing exclusive about one tool or another. Same thing with databases or programming languages. You just have to pick what kind of works best for your situation at the time.
Totally agree.
Anna.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to add? We are slowly. We have the time we want. We can slowly close this down. I don't. Usually in this show, at the end, we usually play a game. I deploy a game on Kubernetes on OpenShift, and then we play. Honestly, I wasn't really in the mood those last days to prepare anything. But we can keep 5 minutes at the end where I can. Maybe we can show some sandbox stuff or anything like that. But I'm just checking my email, my messages, because it's all good. Anna, nothing you want to add?
No, I don't have a game yet to deploy, but if needed, I can always deploy the Hangman. I used to.
Oh yeah, you have the Hangman. We each have our games that we deploy. Yeah, you have a great Hangman. Yeah.
Oh God, that's one piece of code that shows how well a backend developer can code a front end. We're so good on the. I mean, at least I am so good with the UI. I'm like all the time looking where to put the button, and I'm just like, where to put the button, where to put the table, and there's the UI.
Yeah, I tend to prefer kind of the back end or data focused aspects of code, and less so the UI. I mean, everybody's got to respect a beautiful UI and the amount of work and time that goes into it. I just don't think that's for me. Really, it's not one of my passions for sure.
Yeah, it's so hard. And today I decided to start writing my presentation for Devox France, which is next month. Okay. And I say, I want to use not Google Slide, but let's use some of the school GS presentation tools. The famous one is Reveal, and I found a new one called Spectacle, which is based on React. And I said, good idea to. And since this morning, I'm almost crying behind because even just importing a CSS in my project has been a whole journey already the whole morning, because it's using Webpack config and you need some loaders. And I said, I just want those 5 CSS properties. But even this it's crazy. I'm still a jQuery person, and that was working for me. And
well. I found some ways to cheat in the past with Spring Boot in terms of UI. There was some web jars, from what I remember, but that's just cheating and coupling, and it's not nice, But if we want to build something nice and beautiful, and people are not judging that we're coupling the front end with the back end, that's okay. But if we're just wanting to be totally thorough, I agree. It takes a lot of time to build something beautiful. I also prefer the backend side or like demo, like the backend side, but sometimes for the demos, it looks nicer if people see an UI. It's make it more friendly, more added together.
I think it's a combination of things too, because sometimes I think the UI, it almost feels like you're hiding the nuts and bolts and the core of the project, behind this really pretty screen. But on the other hand, that really pretty screen is really nice and easy to interact with, and it makes it nice, to demo, point, click, stuff. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on your topic matter and really what you want to focus on. But yeah, it's fun, I guess, to kind of pick and choose what you want to do and focus on and learn.
I do remember some fun conversations around when people were seeing buttons and they were pressing buttons, like the end users, and they're thinking like, why is this difficult to be implemented? Because in the back you were doing in the back end in Java so many crazy things to make it performant and do all the processes behind the scenes. But yeah, I think that nobody, as an end user, would be very interested to know what's behind the scene, that very performant button they just pushed and did something magical for them.
Too true, yeah.
But yeah, it's always amazing that people see only the beautiful part. I mean, also in my family, they also believe that I'm coding beautiful things. So a lot of years they thought that.
Yeah, you're building websites. Yeah, there's still a lot of people.
And I'm like,
I can do your website, but it will look like a website from 97.
I used to have those skills some time ago, like in the beginning. But I think as we grow as seniors, we are kind of, getting more and more information, and it's difficult to contain everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have some frameworks that help you to scaffold stuff. Back in the time, I was using Grills. I was a huge fan of Grills, and you had this scaffold function that will scaffold your front end or your CRUD function in a pretty nice layout. So, and that was a good base to start. And nowadays, you also have G Hipster. That can scaffold for you the whole project in a really nice way. And you can even choose Angular or React, and then it generates a lot of code. You still have to understand it, but it's a good way to start. And but Anna, yesterday a new old team member came back from paternity leave in our team, Ryan. Right, and Natali told me that he's really, really good at UI. So. We have someone in the team we can think, hey, can you make this nice UI for our demo? So that's
first we have to buy a coffee and some sweets, and then we're like, hey, exactly. I would need your help for this UI.
That's always the best way to a developer's heart.
Coffee, of course. Yep. Everything starts with coffee for us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Or tea, if you're a tea drinker, that's fine. But I mean, coffee's my preference for sure.
Yeah. Well, in the Netherlands, it's a lot of tea. Do you drink a lot of tea, Anna?
No, I didn't know about that.
So my grandparents, they could drink. They were drinking tea the whole day, starting at 7 a.m. and they were going to bed really late. At 11 p.m., they were still drinking tea, the whole day long tea. Yeah.
Probably green tea. I guess that one is like similar to coffee, right? Or
well, no, it was just regular English breakfast tea, and I think your body gets used to it if you do that your whole life.
Well, it's true. It's not everybody that can stand coffee. I mean, one of my best friends, she doesn't stand the smell of coffee, and she never drinks it. So yes, she loves tea. So I remember because at work when I used to come with my things there, with my coffee next to her, she was like, "Put that thing away from me."
Wow! Yeah.
That's kind of how most people, if they don't like the taste of it, they at least like the smell of it. But that's interesting that she didn't like either one.
No, if you don't like it at all, it's like that.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. It's an interesting reaction, and yeah, I was like, oh, really? Okay. But I learned that it's better to stay away with coffee. And yeah, it happens. It's not something that, I mean, it's a taste for everybody. So, well,
Okay. Well, let me try. Nala, my cat is just here.
I was gonna say, like, where is your number one fan?
Yeah, and it's always funny when I watch the replays to say, "Hey, Nala, look, my cat was on the live stream." So, no, she's biting me. If you can see.
Ooh, I can see that she's not happy that you're holding her.
She said, "Yeah." Huh? Okay, I put you back. You say hello.
Okay. She's gonna bite you again.
My two are sleeping in the sun across the room.
Oh yeah. But yeah, she's not happy because it's raining, and when it's rain, the cats they don't understand. They think it's my fault. They look at me, hey, can you make it stop raining? And I say, sorry, nothing I can do. And yeah.
Well, human, to code, you should do something.
Exactly.
And you're working with clouds, so remember that. So
yeah.
You should be able to control the weather.
Exactly. Cloud.terrain.stop, something like that.
Exactly. Next Kubernetes command. kubectl stop rain.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Hey, that's it. I have to give back the channel in a few minutes. But anyway, it was awesome. And good news is that we will meet in 5 weeks. Is that something like that?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
5 weeks. Yeah. So we need to start working on our presentations, Anna. Are you presenting it there as well, Jennifer, or just attending?
No, I should be presenting there as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Will your father be there? Do you know that?
Yes, that's the plan.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, super
the entire
cool.
family.
Yeah. Been too long. I didn't catch up.
It has been a while. Yeah, it'll be nice to kind of see everybody again.
Oh yeah, it will be awesome. Okay. Hey, anyway, thank you so much. It was great. Thank you all the attendees for your questions, remarks. Next week is Tech Talk with Edson. I don't know who his guest is. I should look that up, but if you go on developer.com/DevNation, you will get all the information there. And I'm back in 15 days. And we already have our guest, but we keep a surprise. Usually I struggle to find my guest, but now I have one guest in advance. That's awesome. So everyone, please have an awesome day, evening, and please stay safe. And let me see. Love DevOps with Bill. I got a message from Red Hat developer. Okay, next tech week. Okay. All good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Let me find a good button to launch the ending. Yeah, there we go. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.